Hello and welcome to another episode of the Popcorn Conspiracy. I'm Dave G, and joining me is my co-host.
Hello everybody, I'm Kyle.
And today we're going to be taking a look at an Aussie horror film which is available right around the world thanks to streaming at the moment. It's called Blood Vessel, and it's the latest film from Australian genre director Justin Dix, who's made some pretty good movies over the years. And basically this film is set during World War II. A group of Allied sailors, nurses, doctors on a life raft kind of boat. Nathan Sinclair is kind of the leader, Nathan Phillips, alongside Captain Malone, played by Robert Taylor. They've been shipwrecked, they're adrift, and suddenly they find themselves coming up alongside a Nazi vessel. Now, they're quite expecting that it is going to end up with them becoming POWs, but they feel that they don't have any other option but to board this ship if they want to survive. They get on board, and they don't find any crew, but they do find some mysterious things, and that's where the horror comes in. Mate, I got to ask, Blood Vessel, this movie has got quite a reputation now because of the fact that it has gone global because of the pandemic, but the interesting thing is everyone was expecting Blackwater Abyss to be the Australian genre film to do so well overseas because of the lockdown, but Blood Vessel is taking the world by storm at the moment. So what did you think of it?
Yeah, I liked it. It's good to see like an Aussie horror film that like it has a lower budget, but they do a great job of covering it up by having a filmmaker that really knows what he's doing and being able to capitalize on that.
Yeah,
like I see like Justin Dix. He's worked a lot with like special effects, makeup, and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of it's really on display here in this movie, like as it turns into this horror film, kind of like this vampire, gory movie towards the second half. With all corpses and stuff like that, it doesn't feel like it's a cheaply put together movie. So it actually it does like it's really an entertaining. It's really an entertaining kind of little horror movie. The idea of like Nazis finding something supernatural that they shouldn't be messing with, and like that thing's kind of been done before. But I like the idea. It's kind of that these characters find themselves on this adrift vessel, kind of doing this Mary Celeste, and they're trying to figure out what exactly went on, and then at the same time trying to defeat it once they actually find out the trouble that's waiting for them. And I really enjoyed that. I liked also the way like the first half of the movie, it really does have a like nobody is safe kind of feel to it. Like I was really surprised by that. There's maybe I don't know how many characters there were on the life raft. There's maybe half a dozen or so characters, and some of them that you think are going to be around for a while, they're not.
Yeah.
Like they don't stick around for very long. And I was towards the second half. It's a bit more. I guess some certain characters have a bit more plot armor by that point. They're a bit more established. But yeah, it really hit the ground running. And I thought it did a really great job with what it had. Like I remember we weren't that impressed by Blackwater Abyss.
Yep.
We weren't really that impressed by that. There was I thought that they had covered up the lack of a budget in that movie a little bit better, but I think this movie more delivered a lot more than that one did in the horror aspect. I think by actually maybe giving us a bit more of gore, a little bit more of what we wanted from a horror film. So yeah, I did quite enjoy it. What did you think of it, dude?
Yeah, look, I really liked it. I think Justin Dix has been a very, very smart filmmaker with this film, because one of the things that could have gone horribly wrong with this film was the setting of where it was. Like, to recreate a World War II vessel would cost a lot of money, even if you were using special effects. Luckily, Justin Dix's officers where he works, like his filmmaking company is located, is right opposite the marina down at Williamstown, and there's actually a World War II vessel there at a maritime museum. So he was able to shoot the film on that actual World War II vessel, which makes it so much easier because you suddenly don't have to worry about the kitchen not looking like a kitchen on an old boat and stuff like that. Like, very, very smart filmmaking. But what I really liked about this film was it actually felt more believable to me than Blackwater Abyss. Like, I know that sounds really weird because you're talking about a supernatural kind of horror with vampires and stuff, but the believability was there. Justin Dix has created this world on board this ship that actually works. My biggest fear going into this movie was that it was going to be too similar to the movie Ghost Ship that came out, I think, like over a decade ago now. But yeah, this movie went in a completely different direction, and I think one of the things that helps it be a better movie than Blackwater Abyss is I felt for the characters more. I realized, I don't know if I said it in the show, but I realized one of the things that I felt with Blackwater Abyss was I didn't really care if those characters became crock lunch or not, because they were kind of bland and a little bit uninteresting, whereas the characters here, they each had their own characteristics. They weren't one-dimensional, which you could easily have had in this. But every character came to life in their own way, and there's a couple of characters in here that you know straight away, don't trust that guy, and it works. Like, I was a little bit skeptical at the start that you just happen to have like a life raft that's got like a British person, an American person, an Australian person, but it's well explained actually later on when they say that the boat that they were on that sank was a hospital ship. So yeah, it makes perfect sense, like that they would all be on board that ship. So yeah, it's and like even the Russian character in there as well. Like two of my favorite characters in this were Gerard and Alexander, aside from Nathan, because I've been a huge fan of Nathan Phillips for years now. But yeah, I found having those different characters with different backgrounds actually is what made this movie even more interesting.
Yeah, like the characters there really were quite varied and diverse. Like despite what it was, and not in the, like, I had to say, not in when you say, oh, we want a diverse cast or diverse characters. That kind of has a certain ring to it, what people kind of expect nowadays when you say that. Like, you kind of expect it to be like some like in like Spider-Man's like Peter Parker's field trip class in Spider-Man Far From Home, which felt a little like it was made up of a checklist of different kind of people. We want one of these, we want one of these, you know. It didn't. Yeah, it doesn't feel like that. It is all characters that do feel natural for what they like, for the setting of the movie, and the fact that they do come off of this hospital ship. I think because we're dropped right in the middle of the story with these characters floating in this life raft after their ship has been sunk, maybe a little bit more could have been done to make them more alike, or maybe even play for how different they are. Like, you have a limey Brit, you got an Aussie soldier, injured Russian female nurse, a black American cook, another American who I think is from New York. Like, I liked how different the characters were, but at the same time, it felt just a little bit artificial, I guess. Just I guess to the point, just from the beginning, I thought that there was actually going to be maybe some kind of maybe even a supernatural element. Like, these are half a dozen random souls who found themselves in this like purgatory or something.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That's just what kind of the gist that I was getting. But as you say, after as the movie goes on, yeah, you really do get more of a feel for the characters, and they do kind of. Maybe from the beginning, it might just be because it's a little. It's just to our ears. It's a little harsh. It just seems a little pantomime-y. Like having like all these like Aussies speaking with Aussie accents and people speaking with Russian accents, American accents, Russian. Yeah, like it feels a little. Yeah, it does feel a little like pantomime-y, but as the movie goes on, as you say, yeah, you really do kind of get a lot more. You care a lot more about these characters, and there's not a whole lot. It's funny, like how even though this has so many more characters than Blackwater Abyss had, and there's not really a whole lot of like backstory given to every one of them. It's just how they're played and how they are presented in the movie. You do care a lot more about them, and again, like when one of them goes down that you're not expecting it to go down.
Yeah,
it's kind of surprising, you know. It's pretty shocking. So I really did like the makeup of the cast and the characters, and just the way that they played off each other.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like it also allowed the actors to act a little more in with Blackwater Abyss. I kind of felt sorry for people like Luke Mitchell that can act, like, because they didn't really get that room to act. Like I said before, I've been a huge fan of Nathan Phillips's for years. Most people would know him from like Wolf Creek, and he also popped up in Snakes on a Plane as well. But I've loved him in some of the Australian movies that he's made that are less well known, like West, Dying Breed, Summer Coda, Ballabo. He is just one of those actors that I don't think Australia's going to realise what a good actor he is until it's too late. Like, I know it sounds really, really harsh, but he's like, I think he turns 40 this year, and this guy's been making great movies ever since he was a teenager, and like, he made These Final Hours, which I thought was going to be the movie that would propel him into international superstardom, because it was such a fantastic movie, and he was in every single shot of that film. And it didn't. And I get this really bad feeling that he's going to be one of those actors that is in so many great underground Australian movies, and he's never going to get that potential of being a Hollywood leading man, which I'm pretty sure he could be. And I pray that this movie is the one that like does that for him. Now it is getting international attention, but yeah, he could have been in a movie like Blackwater Abyss and he didn't get to do anything. But in this movie, they actually get to act. And like the character, the actor who plays Gerard, he has to play like this sniveling kind of weasel kind of guy at the start that you're not sure whether you can trust or not. And then without giving away anything, later on he gets to like even expand his acting even more. And it's absolutely fantastic. The same with Alex Cook that plays Alexander Teplov. He gets to show a real range of emotion as an actor, which is rare in a horror movie. In so many of these movies, all of the characters are walking cliches and they don't get to do anything. But in this movie, they all get their dramatic moments. They all kind of have that thing about, can you trust this character? And the actors absolutely excel. And I know from, like, I did an interview with Nathan Phillips about this film, and he said one of the reasons why he felt that he was able to act so much better was because they were actually on that boat. He said it's so much easier when you're an actor to get into character when you're actually on a boat like that rather than on a film set. Like, there's just something about it, he said, that actually helps you in the acting thing. But I also think that the screenplay here from Justin Dix and Jordan Prosser helped with that as well, because it actually gave each actor that chance to shine. Like I think there was seven people originally on board the boat, like on board the life raft.
Something like half a dozen. I just feel like it was about half a dozen, something like that.
Yeah, and even despite the body count with this movie, every single one of those actors gets their own moment to shine in this film, which is so rare in a genre film these days.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, some of them, they do go down pretty quickly, and like there are parts that might feel a little bit like there are some parts which just might feel a little bit like cheap or like say pantomime-y, but I think it is just because we have so many characters, and this is kind of a horror movie, and we're trying to get get into it. So even in that, it still feels it's still fine. You know, like it never feels really bad or really lazily written or anything like that. What did you think of the actual vampires in the movie? Because it's kind of a slow build up to the actual reveal, I guess, of the real vampires in it. For most of the beginning, there's they get on board the ship. Everyone's like, it's like The Thing or some kind of movie like that. Everyone's been wiped out, and there's just this little girl, and the one or two people that they do run into that are still alive, and they're a little bit scared of this little girl, you know. So, what did you think of the actual vampires themselves in the movie?
I really liked it. It kind of went back to the old school vampire kind of lore. I love the look of them. I know Justin Dix has done a lot of work in the past. The guy started working on some of the Star Wars films. But he's done amazing jobs on movies like Dying Breed, Scare Campaign, and stuff over the years. So he's probably one of the leading guys in Australia at designing stuff like that. I thought they looked fantastic. I thought the gore and the look of the vampires were absolutely fantastic, and I think it's one of the reasons why this movie is doing so well overseas. I mean, horror fans can be some of the most patriotic to the genre, but they're also the first to kick their feet in if something doesn't look right in a horror movie, like if the monster's a bit off or something like that. The fact that this movie is getting such high praise at the moment worldwide from horror fans, it probably really does show just how well Justin Dix has done with the prosthetics and stuff like that and the effects. So yeah, look, I think it and we're talking, this movie has actually won awards for its production and art design as well at places like Film Quest and places like that. I think it actually won, it either won or it was nominated for best makeup and stuff like that. I know it won best special effects from the jury at Grimfest. This film has been picking up awards left, right, and center overseas, not just for the film itself, but for its artwork and its production design. So yeah, it's top notch.
Yeah, I kind of, what it reminded me of was the remake of Night of the Living Dead from the 90s that was directed by Tom Savini.
Yeah.
And Tom Savini is a special makeup effects artist who's worked on a lot of the other Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead and a lot of the other like zombie movies and other horror films. And this reminded me of that because when you get somebody who really knows that that specific element of a movie and then gets the ability to direct the movie and can really highlight that element. And you don't really see it that much, I think, with special effects makeup guys. Like we do see it with. It was something that we talked about with Extraction. The way the director of Extraction himself was a stunt coordinator who had worked for the past 20 odd years, and same thing. You see a lot of visual effects people going on to direct Marvel movies and things like that. And like James Cameron, he used to do like special effects. He used to do like visual effects and stuff like that in like old movies like Escape from New York and things like that. And then he went on to do what he did. So I thought it was really cool seeing like a makeup effects guy being able to direct a horror movie and being able to really let his work shine in this film. So yeah, I really thought they looked really, really great. Like all the makeup from beginning to end, like all the gore and all the bodies and all that stuff, that really, as well as like the ship and filming on that location, filming on those sets, like how like authentic it made the movie feel. The special effects makeup and all that stuff really added to it as well. Like rather than kind of like pulling back on that kind of element, kind of in the way that I think Blackwater Abyss did. This one, it really went all out with it, and just the gore in the movie was just really impressive, as well as just the vampire makeup effects.
Yeah.
As far as how the vampires worked in the story itself, I did think that I guess I was a little bit let down by how much the main vampires were. Well, they kind of came off as a little bit weaker. I don't know if it was because of how late in the movie they were introduced, and how few characters are left alive at that time. But we have the kind of something that goes an underlying threat throughout the entire movie is like this entire ship full of Nazi soldiers was completely wiped out just because of this one little girl who got on the ship. So how bad are things going to be when the mummy and daddy vampire wake up?
Yeah.
And when they do, it's really not that bad. It's not that much. It's not that much of a ramp up. I think, I don't know, maybe like they have like abilities that the little girl vampire didn't have, but whenever they really try to do anything like that, they mostly get their asses handed to them by like 2 or 3 malnourished shipwreck survivors.
It's the Anzac spirit.
Yeah, that's it. I thought that was it felt a little bit of a letdown, I guess. I don't know whether they could have maybe had they played with that a little bit. Maybe not having the mother and the father vampire wake up at the end and kind of not do much. Maybe had it just been one that woke up, and the whole idea was that this vampire was really weak and it had to power up, and kind of the idea could have been that when this how unbeatable this vampire would have been when he's reached maximum health, when he's actually at his full abilities, so they have to try to take him out before that happens. Maybe, I don't know, maybe if they had gone in that direction with it, it would have, it would have maybe worked a little bit more. I just thought that throughout the entire movie, just how much mayhem and death there was on this ship, and in the end, the actual major threat that is kind of being built up, just felt a little bit of a letdown. I don't know if you felt the same way or not.
Yeah, it's hard to say, because part of that I thought came into the traditional vampire folklore. In mythology, young vampires were normally the most bloodthirsty. Something about the feeding for the first few times kind of thing. Whereas the older vampires are kind of more careful about how they go about stuff, and they use mind tricks and stuff a lot more. So I thought it kind of fitted into that. It does kind of go into that territory that my good mate Nick Gardner talks about the monster with the skills that seem to come and go. He normally talks about it when you have a monster in a Godzilla movie, and at one point it'll put its foot through a tank, and then the next minute somebody hits it with a chair and it reacts, kind of thing. So I guess there is a little bit of an element to that, but I kind of saw it as a little bit of a throwback to that old vampire lore of the younger vampire being the more bloodthirsty. I thought the one thing that did really shine there was the acting of Ruby Isabel Hall, who played Maya. I always marvel at child actors in horror movies. It must be traumatic for them, just being there and seeing some of the stuff that they see in that, and she does an absolutely fantastic job. She kind of reminded me a little bit of Kirsten Dunst in Interview with a Vampire. I can see your point, but I did think that it was part of throwing back to that old vampire lore rather than having sparkling vampires or vampires that go to high school with kids. So yeah.
I mean, that is something you see in a lot of, like the convenient weakness of vampires. Like even like the Dracula with Bela Lugosi. It always gets me. Like he grabs this girl and then runs into his den, and then he's like, he knows that these people are chasing him, but he goes to sleep in his coffin.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I better go to sleep in my coffin. The sun's almost up.
Yeah.
Like, what? And these guys, these people are chasing you. What are you doing? Like very like conveniently weak, I guess. I don't know. Man, like it was still there was still quite a bit of gore like surrounding those characters. I just thought that like I was saying, oh wow, shit's going to get really real now. Like these ones have a lot more. Can play a lot more mind games. They have kind of almost like telekinetic abilities that the other that the younger girl vampire doesn't have. But just pretty much whenever they tried to do anything, it didn't work.
Yeah.
So but other than that, like just the whole thing, the whole movie, like it was still a really enjoyable horror film as it goes.
Yeah. So I guess to sum up, what are you going to give this 1 out of 5?
I'm going to give this one 3.5 out of 5. I quite enjoyed it. Like I said, the special effects are really top notch for it. Like again, being like a lower budget Aussie film. Even before, like, I thought it was kind of impressive just like seeing just the shots of them in the lifeboat as they managed to film on this docked ship. But the way that they had made, like how realistic it looked, this little lifeboat next to this giant Nazi ship in the middle of the ocean, like just how well that looked, like right off the bat, I thought that really helped the film, like that kind of like adding to just its believability. I did quite enjoy the film. As far like as a horror movie, it's exactly what you want from this kind of a movie.
Yeah, same for me. Like this has been a real year for Aussie horror to get noticed overseas. I'm giving it 3.5 as well. But yeah, just on that point about Aussie horror, like Invisible Man's probably the best horror I've seen this year, and that's recognised as an Australian film. Yeah, it's been a strange year. Like Australian horror has really been pushed to the front because of the whole COVID lockdown. And I don't know why that is. Like there's a lot of horror movies coming out at the moment that are going straight to streaming services, but for some reason Aussie horror just seems to be right at the fore and doing so well overseas. I know Blackwater Abyss was supposed to open, and I'm only going off one country here because it's the country that I know what's going on with it, but in Thailand it was supposed to have a 2-week release. It has done so well that's been stretched to 4 weeks. Now you've got Blood Vessel, which is really funny because a friend in America told me about this movie before I had even watched the screener that I'd been sent. My friend watched it on a streaming service in America, and she said, "Oh, you got to watch this Aussie film called Blood Vessel. It's absolutely fantastic." And for those of us that have been going to Monster Fest for years and years, we know that there's some great Australian horror out there that just never gets the light of day in Australia. So to see movies like this doing so well, I loved Blood Vessel. I thought great acting, great story, great set design. 3.5 from me as well. And that's it for our wrap-up of Blood Vessel. Have a look wherever you are in the world, because I know it's on a lot of different streaming services, so just have a look at all the different streaming services where you are, and you should be able to find one that is screening it. 3.5 from Kyle, 3.5 from me, so it's well recommended. That's it for this episode. I've been Dave G.
And I've been Kyle.
And we'll be back very, very soon with another episode of The Popcorn Conspiracy.